The Art of Mental Warfare. In every generation, there are those who rise above others not by sheer strength or talent, but by their ability to think 3 steps ahead. They understand that human interaction is a game of strategy, where power is often won long before the first move is made. This invisible battlefield, the mind, is where victories are forged and empires are built. To outplay your enemies mentally is to master the hidden currents of psychology that govern every human relationship. Few thinkers understood this better than Niccolò Machiavelli, the Renaissance philosopher whose work The Prince became a manual for political and psychological dominance. His insights were not just about ruling states, they were about ruling minds. Machiavelli's philosophy was grounded in realism, the understanding that people are driven by self-interest, fear, and desire. He stripped away idealism and sentiment, exposing the raw mechanisms that move human behavior. In his world, morality was not irrelevant, but secondary to results. To survive and thrive, one had to learn how to manipulate appearances, anticipate betrayal, and strike with precision. While his name has become synonymous with deceit, Machiavelli's true genius lay in his brutal honesty about how power actually works. He did not invent manipulation. He merely described it with unflinching clarity in today's competitive world. From politics to business to personal relationships, Machiavelli's lessons remain disturbingly relevant. The ability to outthink rivals, control perception, and remain emotionally steady under pressure is as valuable now as it was in Renaissance Italy. This video will explore Machiavelli's ruthless psychological tricks, revealing how they can be used not just to dominate others but to understand the deeper mechanics of human nature. By mastering these strategies, you gain the power to protect yourself from manipulation, and when necessary, to use the same tools to achieve your goals. 1. Understanding the Machiavellian mindset. To understand Machiavelli's psychological framework, we must first grasp the foundation of his worldview, that people are predictable when you understand their motives. In The Prince, he argues that humans are not inherently good or evil, but driven by survival, ambition, and fear. This cold but realistic perspective allowed Machiavelli to view human behavior as something that could be anticipated and shaped. He believed that whoever mastered the art of reading motives could manipulate outcomes long before others even realized the game had begun. For him, strategy was not about reacting, it was about engineering the reactions of others. The Machiavellian mindset is built on emotional detachment and strategic calculation. Those who think this way analyze situations like chess players, always several moves ahead, detached from emotional impulses that cloud judgment. While others react to feelings of anger, pride, or guilt, the Machiavellian individual remains composed, observing how these emotions can be used as leverage. This psychological edge makes them appear almost prophetic. They seem to always know what others will do next. In truth, they simply understand that most people act out of predictable emotional patterns, and they exploit those patterns ruthlessly. Another defining trait of this mindset is flexibility. Machiavelli warned leaders against rigid morality or unbending principles, because life demands adaptability. A wise man, he wrote, must learn how not to be good, and to use this knowledge or not according to necessity. This does not mean abandoning ethics entirely, but recognizing that those who cling blindly to idealism often fall prey to those willing to bend the rules. The Machiavellian mind sees morality as a tool, not a chain. This mindset, while cold, is ultimately pragmatic. It teaches that power belongs to those who can balance ruthlessness with restraint. 2. The power of perception, controlling how others see you. If the battlefield of power lies in the mind, then perception is your armor and your weapon. Machiavelli understood that reality matters far less than what people believe to be real. In The Prince, he famously wrote that men judge more by the eye than by the hand, meaning appearances shape judgment more than actions. To outplay your enemies mentally, you must learn to control how you are perceived. A leader, a rival, or even a friend can be made powerful or powerless through the narrative others believe about them. This control over perception is not deception in its crude form. It is an artful crafting of image and reputation. The Machiavellian strategist presents themselves as trustworthy, confident, and composed, even when their intentions are hidden. They understand that people crave certainty and strength, and will naturally follow those who project both. This is why Machiavelli advised rulers to appear merciful, faithful, and upright, even if behind the facade they must act in opposite ways when survival demands it. The ability to wear masks is essential. It allows one to move through complex social and political environments without revealing their true motives. The moment your enemies see your vulnerabilities, they will exploit them. Control of image is therefore not vanity, it is self-protection. In the modern world, this principle translates to personal branding, leadership, and even interpersonal relationships. Whether on social media, in business, or in politics, perception creates reality. A Machiavellian thinker knows that people don't follow the most honest person. They follow the most compelling illusion of competence. Mastering perception means mastering influence. You don't have to be perfect, you just have to be perceived as the one who is in control. 3. Emotional detachment. The cold advantage. At the heart of Machiavellian psychology lies emotional detachment, the ability to separate feelings from strategy. Machiavelli believed that those ruled by emotion become predictable, while those who master detachment gain freedom of action. Anger, guilt, pride, and even compassion can cloud judgment, leading to mistakes that enemies can exploit. By contrast, the emotionally detached individual sees the board clearly. They analyze decisions not by how they feel in the moment, but by what advances their long-term position. This detachment doesn't mean lacking emotion, it means controlling when and how it is expressed. The Machiavellian strategist treats emotion like a tool. They understand that people respond powerfully to displays of feeling, but they reveal emotion only when it serves a purpose. A calculated show of anger can intimidate. A well-timed display of empathy can disarm suspicion. By mastering their own emotions, they gain the ability to manipulate the emotions of others. Machiavelli warned rulers never to act out of passion. Every move must be deliberate. Those who lash out impulsively show their hand and lose the psychological upper ground. The emotionally detached mind, on the other hand, is like a mirror. It reflects but does not absorb the chaos around it. Modern psychology supports this principle. Emotional regulation is one of the strongest predictors of leadership success. In negotiations, diplomacy, or personal conflict, the person who stays calm under pressure almost always wins. Machiavellian detachment is not heartlessness, it is mental discipline, the art of staying composed while others unravel. This ability to remain steady in the storm is what allows Machiavellian thinkers to outlast their rivals. Where others burn out from stress or guilt, they conserve their energy for the next calculated move. 4. The calculated use of fear and respect. Few ideas from the prince are as famous, or as controversial, as Machiavelli's assertion that it is better to be feared than loved, if you cannot be both. To many, this sounds ruthless, but the statement reveals a profound psychological truth. Machiavelli did not advocate cruelty for its own sake. He recognized that fear is a more reliable motivator than affection. Love depends on loyalty and emotion, both of which can fade or shift. Fear, however, creates consistency. People who fear consequences are less likely to betray or challenge authority. For Machiavelli, the wise ruler, or strategist, uses fear not to terrify, but to command respect and stability. Fear, when used strategically, must be controlled and proportionate. Excessive cruelty breeds hatred, and hatred invites rebellion. Machiavelli advised rulers to be decisive but restrained, punish swiftly and justly when necessary, and avoid unnecessary cruelty. The goal is not to instill terror but to create predictability. Your enemies and subordinates must know that betrayal carries consequences. In the psychological arena, this principle translates into assertive boundaries. When people sense that you tolerate disrespect, they test limits. But when they know that crossing you has a cost, they tread carefully. Fear then becomes a psychological boundary, one that protects your authority. At the same time, Machiavelli acknowledged the importance of respect. Fear without respect degenerates into resentment, which eventually erodes control. To be effective, fear must be balanced by competence and fairness. People must see that your power is justified, that your dominance is rooted in intelligence and strength, not cruelty. The Machiavellian strategist ensures that others respect their capability and decision-making, not merely their capacity for punishment. In this balance between fear and respect lies enduring influence. Those who master it can command loyalty even from those who secretly resent them. 5. Reading and exploiting human nature. Perhaps the greatest of Machiavelli's psychological insights is his understanding of human nature. He believed that people are inherently self-interested, guided more by desire and fear than by virtue or reason. This was not cynicism, it was observation. By studying how people behave rather than how they claim to behave, Machiavelli uncovered the patterns that drive human decision-making. He realized that most people crave security, approval, and advantage. By appealing to these desires, a clever strategist can predict and influence their actions with astonishing accuracy. To outplay others mentally, one must learn to observe without judgment. People constantly reveal their motives through their words, habits, and reactions. But only those who are patient and detached can see these clues clearly. Machiavellian thinkers listen more than they speak. They watch how people respond to praise and criticism, how they treat those beneath them, and what they fear losing most. These details form a psychological map, one that reveals how to motivate, manipulate, or destabilize them when needed. In Machiavelli's world, knowledge of human nature is the ultimate weapon. However, understanding human nature is not purely a tool for exploitation. It is also a form of self-defense. When you recognize that others act out of predictable self-interest, you stop taking betrayal or deception personally. You become less reactive and more strategic. Machiavelli's brilliance lay in teaching that power comes not from emotion, but from comprehension. Those who understand the motives that govern others are no longer surprised by their actions. They become architects of interaction, unseen puppeteers in a world of emotional players. 6. Strategic deception, the subtle art of misleading. Machiavelli understood that deception is not simply about lying. It is about directing perception toward what benefits you most. In The Prince, he argues that those who rely solely on honesty in politics or power games are vulnerable to those who use deceit strategically. To Machiavelli, deception is an essential part of human interaction, because most people see what appears to be true rather than what actually is. The skill lies in crafting believable illusions that align with the expectations and desires of others. Those who master deception don't manipulate through force, they guide people into deceiving themselves. The art of deception requires finesse and timing. Open lies often fail because they are easy to detect. Machiavellian deception operates in layers, through implication, suggestion, and controlled silence. A clever strategist allows others to form their own false conclusions, planting seeds of perception and letting them grow naturally. This approach avoids the moral backlash of overt manipulation, since people rarely blame others for the conclusions they reach on their own. Machiavelli's counsel was not to lie constantly, but to use deception as a strategic veil, protecting one's true intentions until the right moment to act. In modern contexts, this principle remains powerfully relevant, whether in business negotiations, political campaigns, or competitive environments. Strategic deception takes the form of information control, revealing only what is necessary while concealing your full hand. It's about managing narratives, framing discussions, and shaping what others believe to be true. The essence of Machiavellian deception is subtlety, appearing transparent while concealing depth, appearing weak while gathering strength, appearing passive while setting traps. The one who can mislead without lying, who can hide strength behind humility, wields one of the most potent psychological weapons in existence. 7. The role of timing and opportunity. Even the sharpest strategy fails if executed at the wrong moment. Machiavelli emphasized the vital role of timing and opportunity, describing fortune as a force that can be tamed by those who recognize its patterns. "Fortune is like a woman," he wrote, "and it is necessary, if you wish to master her, to conquer her by force." This poetic metaphor encapsulates his view that luck favors the bold, those who act decisively when opportunity appears. Yet boldness without calculation is recklessness. The Machiavellian strategist studies the rhythm of events, waiting for the precise moment when action will yield maximum advantage. Timing, in Machiavellian psychology, depends on situational awareness. One must constantly observe the shifting balance of power, moods, and allegiances. A premature move can expose your intentions. A delayed one can allow rivals to seize the initiative. The key is to remain patient yet alert, striking with precision when others least expect it. Machiavelli advised rulers to be like the fox and the lion, cunning enough to recognize traps and strong enough to crush resistance. This balance of intellect and courage enables one to act swiftly without hesitation once opportunity reveals itself. In modern life, this principle translates to mastering the tempo of your environment. Successful negotiators, investors, or leaders don't just know what to do, they know when to do it. They sense when to speak and when to remain silent, when to push forward and when to retreat. This intuitive grasp of timing often separates success from failure. Machiavelli's insight was that opportunity rarely announces itself clearly. It hides within chaos and change. Those who are prepared, patient, and perceptive can recognize it, and when they do, they move with the ruthless efficiency of someone who has been waiting all along. 8. Turning enemies into pawns. Perhaps one of Machiavelli's most ingenious psychological strategies is his approach to enemies. Most people view enemies as threats to be eliminated. Machiavelli saw them as resources to be used. Every enemy possesses weaknesses, ambitions, and fears, and these can be exploited to serve your goals. Instead of destroying adversaries outright, a skilled strategist often benefits more by manipulating them into playing a role that furthers their own downfall. By feeding them selective information, influencing their perceptions, or provoking predictable reactions, enemies can be turned into unwitting participants in your plan. This psychological technique relies on a deep understanding of the enemy's motives. Machiavelli advised leaders to study their opponents as carefully as they study their allies. When you know what your enemy desires most, power, recognition, revenge, you can craft situations that pull them in the direction you choose. A rival who believes they are outsmarting you is far easier to control than one who feels cornered. The Machiavellian mind, therefore, does not simply destroy enemies, it redirects them, transforming opposition into opportunity. In the modern world, this principle applies in countless arenas: corporate competition, politics, even interpersonal conflict. Turning enemies into pawns might mean allowing competitors to overextend themselves, or guiding critics into publicly proving your point for you. The brilliance of this method lies in its invisibility. Your opponent never realizes they are being manipulated until it is too late. This is the pinnacle of psychological warfare. Not open confrontation, but silent domination. When you can make your enemies act in ways that serve your interests, you have achieved the highest form of Machiavellian mastery. Conclusion: the ethical edge, using Machiavellian psychology without losing your humanity. Machiavelli's ideas, though often branded as ruthless, were never meant to glorify cruelty or manipulation for its own sake. His true objective was to reveal the hidden mechanics of power, to strip away illusion, and show how human behavior operates beneath the surface. To outplay your enemies mentally, you must understand not only their minds but also your own. The greatest danger of Machiavellian thinking lies not in its strategies, but in the temptation to use them without conscience. Power without purpose breeds corruption, Strategy without morality becomes tyranny. The true challenge, therefore, is to use Machiavelli's psychology responsibly, as a means of protection, influence, and self-mastery, not destruction. Ethical Machiavellianism begins with awareness. When you understand how manipulation works, you become harder to manipulate. By mastering perception, timing, and emotional control, you build resilience in a world that rewards cunning over sincerity. Yet the goal is not to abandon empathy, but to wield it intelligently. A modern Machiavellian understands that compassion too can be strategic. It builds loyalty, trust, and long-term influence. The most effective leaders, negotiators, and thinkers blend the sharpness of Machiavellian logic with the warmth of human understanding. They use psychology not as a weapon to harm, but as armor to protect and guide. Ultimately, Machiavelli's ruthless psychology teaches one profound truth: control begins within. The person who governs their own emotions, perceptions, and reactions cannot easily be ruled by others. To outplay your enemies mentally is not merely to defeat them, it is to transcend them. It means operating on a higher plane of awareness, where strategy replaces impulse and wisdom replaces fear. Machiavelli's lessons endure because they speak to the timeless struggle between idealism and reality. Those who learn to balance both, who can be cunning without cruelty and strategic without soullessness, embody the rarest kind of power, the strength to dominate the game while remaining human at heart.